Pokemon Legends Arceus is not only one of my most anticipated games of 2022, but it's also the game I'm the most nervous about. If you follow my channel, you know I've been critical of the core Pokemon games on Switch. Some have even said I'm too hard on Game Freak, I'm a hater, which, you know, you make one video titled I Hate Game Freak and everyone thinks you're a hater. Like, what's that about? Come on, that's ridiculous. But yeah, I really haven't liked what they've put out for a long time. I think they've obviously become complacent, lazy, cheap, all because they can. Even though they've moved from Nintendo handhelds to the much more capable Switch, the games haven't evolved much at all, both in terms of gameplay as well as the graphics department. Honestly, when you consider how much money these games rake in, they're a joke. They really are. Like I said, I've been bashing them for years. I always get Pokemon fanboys defending them in the comments, but I've honestly yet to see one good argument of why these titles look like 3DS games running in HD, with animations that would have been embarrassing on the PS1, all the while selling tens of millions of copies. Like I said, it's just because they know they can get away with it. People are still gonna buy the games regardless. But Arceus does appear to be something different, something closer to the full-on console experience people like me have always wanted. A big open world for you to adventure through, catch and battle with Pokemon, fights that look like actual fights, not just the Pokemon standing in place throwing out animations. That's something that I feel like doesn't get enough acknowledgement, like in these trailers. It's still crazy to me seeing Pokemon actually fighting. Having the battles just happen wherever you are in the wild, you know, not zoning into an arena or something like that. That's something completely different, and I'm sure it took a lot of work, but at the same time, the game also looks rough in some ways, and Nintendo, the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, everyone involved have been fairly quiet about the game. We did get a new trailer recently, but with the game coming out next week, and again, clearly being a departure for this major series, I feel like it hasn't gotten much of a push from Nintendo, and we still, again, don't know that much about it. So yeah, today I want to talk a bit about what I hope we'll get out of this game, as well as voice my various concerns. And before I get into this, I want to say I am aware that there are currently leaks dropping from the game. It's been data mined, but I'm not going to talk about any of that in this video. I haven't even looked at any of the leaks in that myself. I don't want to spoil like new Pokemon and all that stuff, so you're not going to hear any of that in this video. Let's start with the aspect I think most people have been hating on, a problem I've certainly had with all of the Switch Pokemon games to date: the visuals. A lot of people saying this game looks like a PS2 game. It's certainly far from the better looking Switch games, that's for sure. Myself, I think from the footage we've seen, there's been some good shots and some bad. The overall world, I think, is the biggest problem, you know, textures and that. In scenes where there's a lot of foliage or like in the towns, I don't think the game looks bad. But when you get out into the more wide, barren shots, and there's only like a couple random trees thrown in there, oof, yeah, it looks rough. The models, though, the character models, I think are an upgrade from the past Pokemon games, both the people as well as the Pokemon. Again, they certainly could look better, but things don't look like they belong on the 3DS or a mobile game either. And I think you have to sort of keep in mind the drastic changes they are making. With it being an open world game, having the battles play out totally differently, you've got Pokemon that can attack you, the player. Like I said, a lot of things happening in real time in the real places. You're not zoning into an arena and all that. Those things sort of work as a counterbalance for me for the game maybe not looking as good as other games. So while I totally hear the criticism with the visual quality of this game, when I compare it to, again, past Pokemon games that have all, in my opinion, looked bad and played the same, this one, even if you want to say, you know, it looks bad, it certainly is very different. So from what we've seen, I'm fine with the overall look of the game. Performance is my main concern. The latest trailer looked a lot better than the stuff we've seen in the past in terms of frame rate, but that stuff could also be cherry-picked. If the game ends up having lower visual quality and is choppy in the frame rate department, then I'm going to have a major problem. And with the battling, this kind of fits into the visuals. With the Pokemon actually like hitting each other and having to be able to fight pretty much anywhere on the map, I'm going to be a bit more lenient on like the animations and that. than I've been with past games because, again, this is a big shakeup. Like, I'm just trying to make it clear I'm ready to have some give and take to see the series actually evolve and improve. Now, another issue I've had with the Pokemon games, particularly the newer ones, is the difficulty, or lack thereof. That was the focus on the video I did recently on the Diamond and Pearl remakes. Like, the game, it just was not fun because it was so easy. I steamrolled through pretty much the entire game, one-shotting, I don't know, probably 90% of the Pokemon I faced off against, not even paying much attention to things like type matchups most of the time because I couldn't lose. I'd keep Pokemon in play against ones they were weak against because my team was just so much stronger from the obnoxious level scaling as well as the broken affinity mechanic. Like I said in the video, and I stand by it, you'd have to try to lose in that game, and it would be tougher to lose than to win. And I've always got to say this when I talk about Pokemon difficulty, yes, they're supposed to be easier, more welcoming. They're intended to be introductory RPGs for kids. I get that. But there should still be at least some challenge, or it's not fun. I mean, imagine you get a Mario game where you just push the stick to the right and run to the end of each level, and you can ignore all the platforming. Would you really be like, well, Mario's the game for kids? No, it's just not even fun at that point. And that's the territory I feel Pokemon has been heading in. But from what they're saying, it seems like this game hopefully will be a bit more difficult with like the enraged alpha and noble Pokemon. They at least say in the trailer that they'll be tougher fights. My concern was, at least in the trailer, we see the trainer fight both an alpha and a noble. Nobles, I guess, are going to be like the big story boss fights. And in both instances, the trainer's Pokemon wrecks them with a single move. Like, we see them do one move, and these supposedly super strong Pokemon are pretty much toast. Their life bar is reduced almost to nothing. Now, when those Pokemon do hit back, they also hit back super hard, and I think we see the trainer Pokemon faint, but they're only a single Pokemon. The trainer is going to have multiple. Maybe they just did that for the trailer, but if we're not going to have, like, trainer battles, or, the emphasis at least isn't going to be on that, and we can carry multiple Pokemon, like, these boss Pokemon need to take a lot of damage and need to be knocking the shit out of several of yours on average for these fights to really mean anything. Because in that vein of being a fun, engaging game, obviously these Pokemon are supposed to scare you. We see players running from them in the trailers. They're supposed to basically be the Guardians from Breath of the Wild, the first open world game ever made. They're there to keep you on your toes when you're out exploring, something you're worried about encountering over the next hill or something like that. But say they end up being something you can easily defeat. Well, then that just kills the whole vibe they're going for. Everything falls apart. You want these charging, enraged alpha Pokemon to give you like a Mr. X style dread, but no one's gonna care if they can just easily beat the shit out of them. So I hope they get that right. And I'm not saying it has to be super tough, okay? As always, I get this is a game intended for kids, but kids also play other games that offer up some challenge. They can handle it. And with the gameplay, I also worry about things just getting kind of boring. Again, Breath of the Wild, the first open world game ever made, also had these big empty open spaces, but there was so much to do with the shrines, puzzles strewn all over, using your various tools to explore, climb the mountains, glide around. And this game clearly isn't going to be on that level, because I think if they were, they'd at least show some of that stuff. And maybe this game will surprise me again. I feel like we still haven't seen much of it either. But to be clear, open spaces are cool only if there's stuff to do in them. And kind of going off of that, I wonder what the story is going to be like, because they're going to need some kind of narrative to keep you engaged. And they're doing a totally different approach, with the ancient setting, having you working on making like the first Pokedex. With the Dex, encountering Pokemon being the story rather than, your journey to becoming a Pokemon master, having the typical gyms deal, as well as there not being a bunch of people running around. Like, once you're out of these towns, it doesn't seem like there's anyone around. They showed like, maybe there's like some little camps strewn around out there, but it doesn't look like you're really going to run into many people like out in the wild. And they even say, the people are not living in harmony with Pokemon during this time. They're scared of them, which that might kind of keep things interesting. It'd be kind of cool if when you're out there in the wild, you're actually like rescuing people from like the enraged Pokemon and stuff like that. I could see definitely some interesting things they could do there, but I worry a bit about there not being, enough narrative to really like push you forward. In the new trailer, we see, a lot of just getting job board type requests. Like the character goes up to a job board and just like pulls the quest down, which that's fine for like side stuff, but there's going to need to be a lot more than that, or just going around completing the decks, that's going to get tedious for some people pretty quick. One good thing I will say about being out in the wild is at least you do have your Pokemon with you. I think they're going to have to rely a bit more on Pokemon kind of driving the narrative. Surely you'll be finding ones that you do befriend. We see stuff in the trailers like them getting items out of the trees by, actually going up and like shaking them. Like how in the past Pokemon games, you have the skills like Fly, Cut, and that the Pokemon use to help you out, but you don't really get to see much from that. I'd really like if, say, you go into a dark cave, instead of having like a flash ability where it just, everything lights up, you actually use like a Pokemon, say like a Charmander with his fire tail to like light your path. I think stuff like that would be cool. And I'll fully admit from what we've seen already, just the riding the Pokemon, being able to actually fly around the map, stuff like that already is massive for me. So yeah, making good use of Pokemon out in those vast open areas is going to be key, especially if those open zones aren't going to be very populated. Now here's the thing, because I do want to sort of prep people who are ready for me as someone who is more of a Pokemon hater to tear this game to shreds when it comes out. My main complaint with other games has been, them just not evolving, feeling lazy. And regardless of quality, with this game, they are at least trying something different. I expect there to be things that aren't outstanding, like the stuff with the graphics. A lot of people saying, that looks like shit. They look like PS2 games. But for me, seeing the Pokemon actually fighting, being able to mount, fly around, those types of visuals will counterbalance some of that stuff for me. And I'm not saying it will necessarily be enough. I can't review a game I haven't played, but I'm trying to more so give a sense of where I'm going to be coming from as we head into this. And I think a lot of other people will be in a similar boat. We want to see some chances actually taken with this franchise, and we're ready for not all of them to pan out. And sure, stuff like being able to fly around, it's been done in other games. I did that video on Monster Hunter Stories 2 last year, which looks much better than Arceus, and you could mount monsters you've hatched and fly them around. I get a lot of this stuff isn't groundbreaking for the industry by any means, but they are for Pokemon games, and like I said at the top, these are things we've been waiting to get in these games for a long time. So basically, I don't expect it all to be perfect. I expect there to be stumbling, but what I'm hoping for, what I am expecting, is a solid first attempt. Because, I'm also not trying to pay $60 to be a beta tester for Game Freak, because I can already see the defenders coming out with that. Like, if this game comes out and it's, boring, it feels broken in a lot of ways, being like, oh, well, you wanted something different, you got it. Well, I also want a good game, okay, if I'm going to pay money for it. And believe me, if it's not there, despite, wanting so many of these things for a long time, I'm going to say so. But what I'm hoping is this will be a good first step into a new way of approaching Pokemon games. And if it is, I also hope people support it. I've said this in past videos. The thing I'm probably the most worried about is this game actually being awesome, and then people don't buy it. And as always, the Pokemon name alone will get this title some solid sales, but it's got to be enough for them to feel like they should pursue this direction further instead of, going back to what works. I mean, if they end up feeling like they could do as good or better by continuing going the easy route, and Arceus ends up being more of a one-off, man, that would really suck. And I've said this too, it does have a lot going against it in my opinion, with it having more of a spin-off vibe, not having the typical two versions, and that also releasing so close, only 2 months, remember, after the last big Pokemon games, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. It'd really be a letdown if Arceus feels like it's, just the start of something better for this series, but doesn't get built upon further. I mean, geez, here I am, someone who's always wishing the other Pokemon games didn't sell so well, and now I'm worried this one's not going to sell. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your hopes and concerns with Pokemon Legends Arceus in the comments. Are you excited for this big gameplay shakeup? Are you disappointed in the visuals from what we've seen so far? And do you think this could be the start of Pokemon getting real console quality games people have wanted for years? As always, I'm the Shy Guy, Johnny Zakari, and thanks for watching.